Victoria Lane's hands were steadier than her heartbeat as she wiped down the camera lens. But that changed the moment the little girl walked into her studio clutching a disposable camera like it held the secrets of the universe. "Are you the photography teacher?" The girl couldn't have been older than 8, with dark curls escaping a messy ponytail and eyes that held more curiosity than caution. Victoria set down the cloth and smiled. "I am. You must be Lily Morrison." The girl stuck out her hand with a formality that seemed rehearsed. "My dad said I should introduce myself properly." They shook hands, and Victoria couldn't help but notice the expensive watch on the girl's tiny wrist, the designer shoes that looked practically unworn. But what struck her most was the way Lily's entire face lit up when she looked around the studio, taking in the photographs mounted on every available wall space. "Did you take all of these?" Lily moved closer to a black and white portrait of an elderly woman laughing, her wrinkles deep and earned. "Every single one." Victoria walked over to stand beside her. "That's Mrs. Chen from the bakery on 5th Street. She told me about coming to America with nothing but a recipe book and a dream. She looks happy." "She is. Photography is about capturing those real moments, the ones that matter." Lily turned to face her, and Victoria saw something flicker in those young eyes, something that looked like longing. "Can you teach me that? That's why you're here, isn't it?" The door opened again before Lily could answer, and Victoria looked up to see a man stepping into her studio. He was tall, probably just over 6 feet, with dark hair that looked like he'd been running his hands through it all morning. His suit was impeccable, the kind that cost more than Victoria's rent, but his tie was loosened and his sleeves were rolled up to his elbows. He looked like money and exhaustion in equal measure. "Dad," Lily rushed over to him, "look at all the pictures. They're amazing. I can see that." His voice was deep, measured, and when his eyes met Victoria's, she felt something shift in the air between them. "Ethan Morrison." "Sorry I'm a few minutes late. Victoria Lane." She walked over, extending her hand. His grip was firm, warm, and lingered just a second longer than necessary. "And you're actually right on time. I was just getting acquainted with your daughter. She's been talking about this all week." Ethan's expression softened when he looked at Lily, and Victoria saw genuine affection there. Real love. "Ever since she found my old camera in the attic, she's been obsessed." "It's a Canon AE1, Lily announced proudly. "From 1976. Dad said it was his father's." Victoria raised her eyebrows, impressed. "You know your cameras. That's a great place to start." "I've been watching YouTube videos," Lily admitted, then looked at her father. "But Dad said I needed real lessons, professional ones." "Because I don't want you learning everything from the internet," Ethan said, and Victoria caught the protective edge in his voice. "I want you to learn from someone who actually knows what they're doing." "Well, I've been doing this for about 10 years now," Victoria said. "I teach classes here 3 times a week, and I do portrait work on the weekends. Your daughter will be in good hands." Ethan studied her for a moment, and Victoria had the strangest sensation of being photographed herself. Like he was capturing her image, cataloging details, storing them away for later. "I appreciate that. Lily's mother passed away 2 years ago, and since then I've been trying to encourage her interests, give her outlets." The information landed between them, heavy and sad. Victoria's chest tightened. "I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you." Ethan's jaw tensed and he changed the subject quickly. "So how does this work? The lessons?" "I usually do 1-hour sessions twice a week. We'll start with the basics. Composition, lighting, how to really see what you're photographing rather than just pointing and shooting. As she progresses, we'll work on more advanced techniques." "Sounds perfect." Ethan pulled out his wallet, and Victoria caught a glimpse of several credit cards, all black, all the kind that had no spending limit. "What do I owe you?" They discussed payment, and Victoria tried not to wince when Ethan didn't even blink at her rates. She'd set them competitively, but they were still substantial for most families. This man handed over his card like he was buying coffee. "I'll pick you up in an hour, sweetheart," Ethan said, kissing the top of Lily's head. "Behave for Miss Lane." "I always behave," Lily protested, but she was grinning. Ethan caught Victoria's eye as he headed toward the door. "Thank you for this, really. It's my pleasure," and it was. Victoria had been teaching photography for 5 years now, supplementing her income from portrait sessions and the occasional wedding. She loved it, loved seeing people discover the magic of capturing light and shadow, of freezing moments in time. But there was something special about teaching children. They hadn't yet learned to overthink things. They just saw beauty and wanted to capture it. The first lesson went better than Victoria could have hoped. Lily was attentive, asking questions that showed she'd really been studying. They talked about the rule of thirds, about leading lines and natural framing. Victoria showed her how to hold the camera steady, how to breathe before pressing the shutter. "Your dad's camera doesn't have autofocus," Victoria explained, "which means you'll need to learn how to focus manually. It's harder, but it'll make you a better photographer in the long run." Lily nodded seriously, adjusting the lens with careful precision. "Dad said his father used to take pictures of everything. Birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday afternoons. He said the random ones were always the best." "Your grandfather was right." Victoria moved behind Lily, helping her adjust her stance. "The best photographs aren't always the posed ones. They're the moments when people forget the camera exists." They spent the rest of the hour taking pictures around the studio. Lily photographed the light coming through the windows, the plants Victoria kept on the windowsill, the texture of the exposed brick wall. With each shot, she grew more confident, more excited. When Ethan returned, Lily practically launched herself at him. "Dad, I took 37 pictures. Miss Lane is going to develop them so we can see them next time." 37, that's impressive. Ethan's smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that made him look years younger. "Did you thank Miss Lane?" "Thank you, Miss Lane," Lily said dutifully, but the gratitude in her voice was real. "You're very welcome, Lily. I'll see you on Thursday." After they left, Victoria found herself standing in the empty studio, thinking about Ethan Morrison, about the way he looked at his daughter like she was his entire world, about the sadness that lingered around the edges of his smiles, about the fact that she couldn't stop thinking about him, which was ridiculous because she'd known him for exactly 1 hour and 6 minutes. She'd been single for 2 years, ever since her last relationship had ended in a mess of broken promises and incompatible dreams. She'd thrown herself into her work, into building her business, into creating something that was entirely hers. She didn't have time for attraction, or whatever this unsettled feeling was. But when Thursday came around and Ethan walked through the door again with Lily bouncing beside him, Victoria's heart did something complicated in her chest. "How was your week?" The question came out before she could stop it, too personal, too interested. "Long." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, and Victoria noticed the shadows under his eyes. "But better now. Lily hasn't stopped talking about photography since Monday." "I practiced focusing," Lily interjected. "I took pictures of everything in our house, including several very unflattering shots of me on conference calls," Ethan added dryly, but there was humor in his voice. Victoria laughed. "The best documentary photographers are relentless. You might have a future photojournalist on your hands." "God help me," Ethan muttered, but he was smiling. This time when he left, he paused at the door. "Victoria, would it be weird if I asked where you got your coffee? That smells incredible and I'm running on about 3 hours of sleep. She gestured to the small setup in the corner. I make it here. It's just a French press and beans from the roaster down the street, but I'm pretty obsessed with it. Any chance I could bother you for a cup? I'll pay whatever. You don't have to pay me for coffee, Victoria said, already moving toward the French press. How do you take it? Black, please. She poured him a cup, their fingers brushing as he took it from her. The contact was brief, accidental, but Victoria felt it all the way down to her toes. Thank you. Ethan took a sip and closed his eyes. This is exactly what I needed. Rough day. Rough month, honestly. Work has been insane. What do you do? Victoria asked, trying to sound casual. Corporate management. Boring stuff, really. He took another sip, and Victoria had the distinct impression he was deflecting. This is fantastic coffee, though. I might have to become your new customer. The door's always open, she said, and meant it. Over the next few weeks, it became a routine. Ethan would arrive a few minutes early to drop off Lily, and Victoria would have a cup of coffee waiting. They'd talk for 5 or 10 minutes, nothing too deep, just small conversations about their days, about Lily's progress, about the weather. But Victoria found herself looking forward to those moments more than she wanted to admit. Lily was flourishing. Her eye for composition was natural, instinctive. Victoria started giving her assignments, sending her out into the world with her grandfather's camera and a list of things to capture. Light through leaves, reflections in puddles. The expression on her father's face when he thought no one was watching. That last one produced a photograph that made Victoria's breath catch. Ethan at his desk, staring out a window with such profound loneliness on his face that it hurt to look at. Lily had captured something raw and real, but Victoria wondered if the girl understood what she'd photographed. This is beautiful, Lily, Victoria said carefully, but it's also very personal. Did you ask your dad if you could take his picture? He didn't even know I was there, Lily said. That's what you taught me, right? Catch people when they forget about the camera. I did teach you that. But with family, with people you love, sometimes you need to think about whether they'd want that moment shared. Some photographs are just for us to remember, not for others to see. Lily considered this, her young face serious. Dad gets sad sometimes. He tries to hide it, but I can tell. Do you think taking pictures of it makes it worse? Victoria's heart ached. No, sweetheart. I think your dad is lucky to have someone who notices when he's struggling. But maybe instead of photographing him when he's sad, you could ask him about it. Talk to him. He doesn't like talking about Mom. That doesn't mean he doesn't need to sometimes. Lily nodded slowly, then carefully set the photograph aside. Can I show you the others I took? The rest were lighter. A squirrel in the park, perfectly focused and mid-leap. The barista at the coffee shop laughing at something off camera. The city skyline at sunset, all golden light and long shadows. Each photograph showed more skill, more understanding of what Victoria had been teaching her. You're really talented, Victoria said honestly. I mean it, Lily. You have a gift. Do you think I could be as good as you someday? I think you could be better than me if you keep working at it. When Ethan arrived that evening, Lily ran to him with her usual enthusiasm, chattering about everything they'd worked on. But this time, when Ethan's eyes met Victoria's over his daughter's head, something passed between them. Something that felt like recognition, like they were both pretending things were simpler than they actually were. She's progressing incredibly fast, Victoria said. Honestly, I usually don't see this kind of intuition in students twice her age. Pride radiated from Ethan's entire being. She's always been observant, notices everything. The best photographers are. Can Miss Lane come to dinner with us? Lily asked suddenly, looking up at her father with hopeful eyes. Please, We're going to that Italian place and she could tell us more about photography and it would be so fun. Ethan looked startled and Victoria felt heat rush to her cheeks. Oh, I'm sure your dad wants to have dinner just with you, sweetheart. I don't want to intrude. You wouldn't be intruding, Ethan said, and the way he looked at her made Victoria's pulse quicken. If you'd like to join us, we'd be happy to have you. No pressure, though. I know you probably have plans. Victoria thought about her plans, which consisted of reheating leftover soup and editing photos until midnight. I don't actually. If you're sure I wouldn't be imposing, I'd love to come. Lily cheered, and Ethan's smile was genuine, warm, and directed entirely at Victoria. Great. I can drive us if that works. That would be perfect. The Italian restaurant was the kind of place Victoria had walked past 100 times but never entered. White tablecloths, soft lighting, prices that made her wince internally. But Ethan navigated it all with ease, speaking to the host by name, being led to what was apparently his regular table. You come here often? Victoria asked as they settled into the booth. Too often, probably, Ethan admitted. Cooking for one, or I guess for two, has never been my strong suit. We end up eating out more than we should. Dad burns everything, Lily announced cheerfully. Even toast. I don't burn everything, Ethan protested. Just most things. Victoria laughed. I'm not much better, honestly. I can manage about 5 dishes, and even those are questionable. They ordered, and conversation flowed easily. Lily talked about wanting to photograph the botanical gardens, about a book she was reading, about her friend Sophie's new puppy. Ethan listened attentively, asking questions, genuinely engaged with his daughter in a way that made Victoria's chest feel tight. What about you? Ethan asked Victoria during a lull in Lily's monologue. How did you get into photography? My mom gave me a camera when I was 13, Victoria said. Nothing fancy, just a basic digital point and shoot, but I became obsessed. I'd take pictures of everything, drive my parents crazy with it. When I was 16, I sold a photograph to a local magazine. Made $50 and felt like I'd won the lottery. What was the photograph? A homeless man feeding pigeons in the park. He was smiling, really genuinely happy in that moment, and something about it just captured everything I wanted to say about finding joy in small things. Victoria smiled at the memory. I gave him half the money, seemed only fair. Ethan's expression softened. That's a beautiful story. What about you? Victoria asked. What's your story? Something shuddered in Ethan's eyes. Not as interesting as yours, I'm afraid. Business degree, corporate ladder, all very predictable. It was evasive and Victoria knew it, but she didn't push. Everyone had parts of their life they held close. The food arrived and it was incredible. Victoria tried not to be too obvious about how much she was enjoying it, but Ethan noticed. Good, he asked, amused. Really good, she admitted. I don't eat out much. This is a treat. Then we'll have to do it again. The words hung between them, loaded with possibility. Lily didn't seem to notice, too busy drowning her pasta in Parmesan cheese, but Victoria felt them sink into her skin and stay there. After dinner, Ethan drove her home. Victoria lived in a modest apartment above a bookstore, nothing fancy, but it was hers. She loved the smell of old books that drifted up through the floorboards, loved the quiet neighborhood, loved the big windows that let in perfect light. Thank you for tonight, she said as Ethan pulled up to the curb. I had a really nice time. So did we. Ethan turned to look at her, and in the dim light of the car, his eyes looked almost black. Victoria, Miss Lane, can we go to the botanical gardens this weekend? Lily leaned forward from the back seat. For my assignment, the moment broke, and Ethan cleared his throat. Lily, I'm sure, miss. Lane has plans this weekend. Actually, I don't, Victoria said before she could overthink it. The botanical gardens would be perfect for practicing nature photography. If you want company, I could meet you there. Show Lily some techniques. Really? Lily's excitement was palpable. Really? Victoria looked at Ethan, trying to read his expression. If that's okay with you, more than okay. His voice was rough around the edges. Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon, Victoria agreed. She spent the next 2 days trying not to think about Saturday, which meant she thought about it constantly. This wasn't a date. It was a lesson extension. A professional courtesy. The fact that her stomach fluttered every time she thought about seeing Ethan again was irrelevant. Saturday arrived bright and clear. Perfect weather for photography. Victoria packed her camera bag, changed outfits 3 times, and told herself firmly that she was not primping for Ethan Morrison. The botanical gardens were crowded with families and couples, all enjoying the warm afternoon. Victoria found Ethan and Lily near the entrance, and her traitorous heart did a little flip at the sight of him. He was dressed casually, jeans and a dark blue Henley that brought out his eyes, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Perfect day for this," Victoria said, hoisting her camera bag higher on her shoulder. "Thanks for coming," Ethan said, and the warmth in his voice made her feel like she'd done something far more significant than show up. They wandered through the gardens, and Victoria worked with Lily on macro photography, showing her how to capture the details of petals and leaves, how to make backgrounds blur into soft focus. Lily was a quick study, immediately understanding the concepts and experimenting with them. Ethan walked beside Victoria, close enough that their arms occasionally brushed. Each contact sent electricity through her system. "She's been different since she started your classes," Ethan said quietly while Lily was absorbed in photographing a butterfly. "Happier, more like her old self." "She's a special kid," Victoria said. "You've done an amazing job with her." "Most days it doesn't feel like it. Most days it feels like I'm barely holding everything together." The admission came out raw, unfiltered. Victoria looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the exhaustion and grief he carried. "From where I'm standing, you're doing more than holding it together. You're giving your daughter a beautiful life. You're showing up for her. That matters. Thank you." Ethan's hand brushed against hers, and this time it didn't feel accidental. His fingers lingered, warm and solid, before slowly pulling away. "I don't say that enough. Thank you." They spent 3 hours at the gardens, and by the end, Lily had filled an entire roll of film. Victoria explained that they'd develop it together during their next lesson, turn the darkroom into a learning experience. "There's a cafe near here," Ethan said as they walked back toward the parking lot. "They make incredible ice cream. What do you say, Lily? Want to celebrate a successful photography session?" "Yes." Lily bounced ahead of them. "Can Miss Lane come if she wants to?" Ethan said, looking at Victoria with something in his eyes that made her breath catch. "I want to," Victoria said softly. The cafe was small and charming, with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. They ordered ice cream, and Victoria found herself in a debate with Lily about whether chocolate or vanilla was the superior flavor. "Vanilla is boring," Lily insisted. "Vanilla is classic," Victoria countered. "It's elegant." "Victoria's right," Ethan interjected. "Sometimes simple is best." "You're just saying that because you always order vanilla," Lily accused. "I have refined taste." "You have boring taste," Victoria laughed, watching them bicker affectionately. This felt natural, easy, like she'd been part of their little family for years instead of weeks. The thought should have scared her, but instead it felt right. When they finished and walked back to Ethan's car, Victoria noticed the sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Without thinking, she pulled out her camera and captured it. the light catching on the buildings and trees. "Beautiful," Ethan said, and when Victoria looked over, he was watching her, not the sunset. Her camera suddenly felt very heavy in her hands. "I should probably head home. Lots of editing to do." "Let me drive you," Ethan offered. "It's on our way." It wasn't on their way at all, but Victoria didn't argue. Lily fell asleep in the back seat during the drive, exhausted from the afternoon of walking and excitement. Ethan drove with one hand on the wheel, his other arm resting on the console between them. Victoria was intensely aware of the space between them, the way it felt both too much and not enough. "I need to tell you something," Ethan said as they neared her apartment. "And I'm probably going to make this awkward, but I think you should know." Victoria's heart started pounding. "Okay. I'm the CEO of Morrison Industries. We manufacture industrial equipment, boring stuff really, but the company's been in my family for 3 generations. I don't usually tell people right away because it changes things. The way they look at me, the way they act around me." He pulled up to her building and put the car in park, turning to face her. "But I don't want there to be dishonesty between us, even by omission." Victoria processed this information. Morrison Industries. She'd heard of them, obviously. They were huge, multinational, the kind of company that appeared in business magazines and financial reports, which meant Ethan wasn't just wealthy. He was seriously, substantially wealthy. "Why are you telling me this now?" she asked. "Because I like you," Ethan said simply. "I like talking to you. I like how you are with Lily. I like that you make incredible coffee and laugh at my daughter's terrible jokes and capture moments that make me remember why beauty matters. And I wanted you to know who I really am before I asked you to dinner." An actual dinner, just the two of us, not a spontaneous thing with Lily as a buffer. Victoria's entire body felt like it was humming. "You're asking me on a date." "I'm asking you on a date," Ethan confirmed. "If you're interested, if I haven't completely misread this situation." "You haven't misread it." The words came out breathless. "I'd love to go to dinner with you." The smile that spread across Ethan's face was worth every ounce of nervousness currently flooding Victoria's system. "Tomorrow night. I know it's short notice, but I don't want to wait if I don't have to." "Tomorrow night works." They exchanged numbers, and Victoria felt like a teenager again, giddy and nervous and excited all at once. She floated up to her apartment, barely aware of her surroundings, and spent the rest of the evening alternating between staring at her phone and trying to convince herself this was really happening. Ethan picked her up at 7 the next evening, and Victoria had spent an embarrassing amount of time getting ready. She'd settled on a deep green dress that made her feel confident without trying too hard, paired with the silver necklace her grandmother had given her. The look on Ethan's face when she opened the door made every minute of preparation worth it. "You look stunning," he said, and the sincerity in his voice made her feel like she was glowing from the inside out. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she said, taking in his perfectly tailored suit, the way his hair was styled just a bit more carefully than usual. He took her to a restaurant she'd only read about in magazines, the kind of place that required reservations months in advance. But they were seated immediately, led to a private table with a view of the city lights spreading out below them. "This is incredible," Victoria said, unable to help her honest reaction. "I wanted tonight to be special." Ethan reached across the table, his hand palm up, an invitation. Victoria placed her hand in his and the contact felt momentous. "I'm nervous if I'm being honest. I haven't done this in a long time." "Neither have I," Victoria admitted. "My last relationship ended badly enough that I'd pretty much sworn off dating." "What happened?" "He wanted me to give up photography, said it was a hobby, not a career. Wanted me to get a real job, settle down, stop chasing dreams." She shook her head. "I chose my dreams." "Good," Ethan's grip on her hand tightened. Anyone who asks you to be smaller isn't worth your time. What about you? How long has it been since Lily's mother passed? Pain flickered across Ethan's face, but he didn't pull away from the question. 2 years and 4 months. Cancer. It was aggressive, and by the time they caught it, there wasn't much they could do. She fought hard, lasted longer than the doctors expected, but in the end, he trailed off, swallowing hard. Sarah was an incredible person, an amazing mother. Losing her nearly destroyed me. For a while, I was just going through the motions, trying to keep things stable for Lily. Work and parenting and nothing else. I'm so sorry, Ethan. Thank you. It's been hard, and I don't think it'll ever stop being hard. But lately, things have felt lighter, especially since Lily started her photography lessons. He met her eyes. Especially since I met you. The conversation flowed through dinner, neither of them wanting to stop talking. They discovered they'd grown up in neighboring towns, had probably been at the same county fair multiple times without knowing it. They shared the same taste in movies, both preferring old classics to modern blockbusters. Ethan told her about taking over the family company at 28 when his father had a heart attack, about the pressure and responsibility that had shaped his entire adult life. Victoria told him about her parents, who'd been supportive but worried when she'd chosen art school over a practical degree, about the struggle of building her business from nothing, the lean years when she'd survived on ramen and determination. You ever regret it? Ethan asked. The practical path might have been easier. Never. Victoria said it without hesitation. Every hard moment, every time I had to choose between paying rent and buying new equipment, every rejection and setback, it was all worth it because I get to do what I love. I get to teach people like Lily to see the world differently. That's not something I'd trade for anything. That's remarkable, Ethan said. The clarity you have about who you are and what matters. I envy it. You have that too. You could have walked away from the company, but you didn't. You honored your family legacy and kept it going. That takes its own kind of courage. They talked until the restaurant staff started giving them pointed looks, and even then Victoria didn't want the night to end. Ethan drove her home slowly, as if he was reluctant for it to be over too. I had an amazing time tonight, Victoria said as they stood outside her apartment. Best first date I've ever been on, hands down. Same. Ethan stepped closer and Victoria's breath hitched. Can I see you again, soon? Yes. She barely recognized her own voice, breathy and wanting. Ethan cupped her face with one hand, his thumb brushing over her cheekbone. Can I kiss you? Instead of answering, Victoria closed the distance between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative. But then Ethan's other hand found her waist and pulled her closer, and Victoria's fingers tangled in his hair, and soft became urgent. She felt it all the way through her body, this connection, this rightness. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ethan pressed his forehead to hers. I'm falling for you. I know it's too soon to say that, but I can't help it. You should know. It's not too soon, Victoria whispered. I'm falling for you too. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Ethan would bring Lily to her lessons, stay for coffee and conversation. They'd go on dates when Lily was with her grandmother, Ethan's mother, who was grateful to see her son happy again. Victoria met the woman one evening when she came to pick up Lily, and the warmth in Lily Morrison's eyes when she looked at Victoria made her feel welcomed, accepted. He hasn't smiled like this in years, Lily told Victoria quietly while Ethan was helping Lily pack up her camera equipment. Thank you for giving that back to him. He's given me a lot too, Victoria said honestly. Lily's photography continued to improve dramatically. Victoria entered one of her photographs, a stunning shot of rain on a window with city lights blurred beyond, into a youth competition. When Lily won third place, the girls' joy was infectious. They celebrated with dinner at the Italian restaurant, and Lily insisted on displaying her certificate on the studio wall alongside Victoria's professional achievements. "This is where it all started," Lily declared. "My first award. Someday I'll have a whole wall of them." "I believe you will," Victoria said, and meant it. That night, after dropping Lily at home, Ethan came back to Victoria's apartment. They'd been taking things slow, cautious not to rush into anything physical too quickly. But when Ethan kissed her against her front door, hunger and tenderness mixed together, Victoria knew she was done being cautious. "Stay," she whispered against his mouth. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." They made love slowly, learning each other's bodies with the same attention Victoria brought to photography, discovering what made the other gasp and sigh and arch. Afterward, lying tangled together in her bed, Victoria felt a completeness she'd never experienced before. "I love you," Ethan said into the darkness. "I know we haven't been together that long, but I know what I feel. I love you, Victoria." She turned to face him, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingers. "I love you too, so much it scares me sometimes. We don't have to be scared." Ethan kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "Not of this." The following weeks brought them closer. Victoria started spending more time at Ethan's house, a sprawling place in the suburbs that somehow managed to feel like a home rather than a mansion. Lily was delighted to have Victoria around more, constantly pulling her into activities and conversations. They'd have dinner together, the three of them, and Victoria would help Lily with homework while Ethan cooked, or rather attempted to cook while Victoria supervised to prevent disasters. One evening, about 3 months into their relationship, Ethan asked Victoria to come to a company event with him. A gala fundraiser that Morrison Industries hosted annually, black tie and formal. "I'll need to buy a dress," Victoria said, already mentally tallying her savings. Formal gowns weren't exactly in her usual budget. "Let me buy it for you," Ethan offered. "Please. I know you don't like me spending money on you, but this is my event, my world, and I want you to feel comfortable." Victoria started to protest, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This mattered to him, being able to provide this. "Okay, thank you." They went shopping together, and Victoria tried on what felt like 100 dresses before finding the one. It was deep sapphire blue, elegant and simple, with a neckline that was tasteful but alluring. When she stepped out of the dressing room, Ethan's expression made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. "That's the one," he said, his voice rough. The night of the gala, Victoria was nervous in a way she hadn't been since her first gallery showing. This was Ethan's world, full of wealthy executives and society people, and she was acutely aware that she didn't belong to that universe. But Ethan never left her side. He introduced her to everyone as his girlfriend, pride evident in every word. He explained what she did, made sure people understood she was a professional photographer, not just his date for the evening. When a particularly condescending woman made a comment about photography being a nice little hobby, Ethan's response was swift and firm. "Victoria is an artist and a business owner. She's built something real through talent and hard work. I'd say that's more impressive than inheriting wealth, wouldn't you?" The woman had the grace to look embarrassed, and Victoria fell a little more in love with Ethan for defending her. Later they danced, and Victoria felt like she was floating. "Thank you," she said, her head resting on his shoulder, "for tonight, for making me feel like I fit in your world." "You do fit," Ethan said. "You fit perfectly. These people, this life, it's all just surface. You're what's real. You're what matters." That night, back at Ethan's house after Alina had taken Lily home, Ethan led Victoria out to the back garden. The moon was full, casting silver light over everything. "I want to show you something," he said, pulling out his phone. He scrolled through photos, and Victoria saw images of her and Lily, candid shots from their lessons. Her showing Lily how to adjust exposure, both of them laughing at something. Victoria's face in profile as she looked at one of Lily's photographs. "When did you take these?" Victoria asked, touched. "Over the past few months, I wanted to capture what you two look like together, the way you light up around each other." Ethan put his phone away and took both her hands in his. "Victoria, before I met you, I was existing, not living, going through the motions. But you've reminded me what it feels like to actually feel things, to be excited about waking up in the morning, to look forward to the future instead of just surviving it." "Ethan, let me finish." He was nervous, she realized, actually trembling slightly. "Lily adores you. My mother adores you. But more than that, I adore you. I love everything about you, from your terrible cooking to the way you see beauty in everything to how you've given my daughter confidence and joy. I know it's only been a few months, but when something is right, you know it. And this is right." He dropped to one knee and Victoria's heart stopped, actually stopped beating for a full second. "Victoria Lane, will you marry me?" Ethan pulled out a ring box, opening it to reveal a stunning diamond that caught the moonlight. "Will you officially become part of our family? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to make you as happy as you've made us?" Tears were streaming down Victoria's face, but she was smiling so hard her cheeks hurt. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Ethan stood and slid the ring onto her finger, and then he was kissing her, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around. They were both laughing and crying, overcome with the enormity of the moment. "We should tell Lily," Victoria said when they finally broke apart. "Can we go get her?" "I want to tell her together. She already knows," Ethan admitted. "I asked her permission first. She's the one who helped me pick out the ring." That made Victoria cry harder. The thoughtfulness of it, the way Ethan had included his daughter in this decision, made her love him even more than she thought possible. They called a leaner, who brought Lily back to the house despite the late hour. The girl came running in, saw the ring on Victoria's finger, and let out a shriek of joy. "You said yes. You're going to be my mom." Victoria knelt down to Lily's level. "If that's okay with you. I'd never try to replace your mother, but I love you so much, and I'd be honored to be part of your life in whatever way feels right." Lily threw her arms around Victoria's neck. "I want you to be my mom. My real mom will always be in my heart, but there's room for you too. Is that okay?" "That's more than okay," Victoria said, holding the girl tight. "That's perfect." The wedding took place 6 months later in the botanical gardens where they'd had their first unofficial date. It was small, intimate, just close friends and family. Lily served as the junior bridesmaid, and she documented the entire planning process with her camera, creating a photo journal that Victoria treasured. A leaner walked Victoria down the aisle, a gesture that felt significant given that Victoria's own parents had passed away years earlier. When Victoria reached Ethan and saw the love in his eyes, she knew she'd found her place in the world. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Ethan promised to always support her dreams, to make her coffee exactly how she liked it, to never take a single day with her for granted. Victoria promised to love both him and Lily fiercely, to fill their home with laughter and art, to choose him every single day for the rest of her life. When the officiant pronounced them married, Ethan kissed her like it was the first time and the 1,000th time all at once. Lily cheered louder than anyone. The reception was filled with joy and dancing and terrible speeches from Ethan's college friends. Victoria's former students came, bringing cameras and documenting everything. It felt like two worlds merging, her artistic community and Ethan's corporate one, and somehow it all worked. During their first dance, Ethan pulled her close. "How does it feel to be Mrs. Morrison?" Feels like coming home, Victoria said honestly. Feels like everything finally makes sense. I know what you mean. They honeymooned in Italy. 2 weeks of art and food and making love in beautiful hotel rooms. Ethan was attentive and romantic, planning surprises, and insisting they take time to simply be together. Victoria photographed everything, wanting to remember each moment. When they returned home, Victoria officially moved into the house. Her studio remained her workspace, but now she came home to Ethan and Lily every night. They developed new routines, new rhythms as a family. Lily still took lessons, but now they were less formal, more like two photographers collaborating and learning together. A year after the wedding, Victoria discovered she was pregnant. She told Ethan by leaving a series of photographs around the house, each one a clue leading to the final image of a positive pregnancy test in her studio. When Ethan found her there, understanding dawning on his face, he swept her into his arms. Really? We're having a baby. We're having a baby, Victoria confirmed. Lily was ecstatic at the news of becoming a big sister. She immediately started planning how she'd photograph every moment of the baby's life, creating albums and documenting milestones. Victoria loved watching her stepdaughter's excitement, the way she'd grown so much in the past year and a half. The pregnancy was smooth, and Victoria worked right up until her due date, teaching classes and taking portraits. Ethan was anxiously attentive, constantly worried about her overexerting herself. "I'm pregnant, not fragile," she'd remind him, but she loved how much he cared. Their son was born on a spring morning, arriving quickly and with considerably less drama than everyone had anticipated. They named him Marcus Evan Morrison, after Ethan's father and grandfather. He was perfect, with dark hair like his father and what would eventually become his mother's eyes. Lily was the first one besides Ethan to hold him, and the look of wonder on her face as she cradled her baby brother was something Victoria captured with her camera, a photograph she'd treasure forever. Those early months with a newborn were exhausting and magical in equal measure. Ethan took paternity leave from the company, something he'd never done with Lily because he'd been too consumed with trying to prove himself. This time, he prioritized family, and Victoria fell in love with him all over again watching him be a father. He'd wake up for middle-of-the-night feedings, walking the floor with Marcus while humming off-key lullabies. He'd change diapers without complaint and rock the baby to sleep with infinite patience. Lily helped too, learning to be gentle and careful, photographing her brother constantly. "He's going to have the most documented childhood in history," Ethan joked, watching Lily take yet another picture of Marcus sleeping. "Good," Victoria said. "Photographs are how we remember, how we hold onto the moments that matter." When Marcus was 6 months old, Victoria held her first major gallery exhibition. It was a retrospective of her work over the past decade, combined with new pieces that explored themes of family and love and finding home in unexpected places. Several photographs of Ethan and Lily were included, capturing the journey from teacher and student to family. The exhibition was a huge success, with several pieces selling for substantial amounts. Critics praised her ability to capture genuine emotion, to make viewers feel the stories behind the images. Ethan was her biggest supporter, attending the opening night with pride radiating from every pore. "My wife, the famous photographer," he said, pulling her close. "Your wife, the lucky woman who found everything she was looking for," Victoria corrected. Life settled into a beautiful pattern. Victoria's business continued to grow, and she eventually hired another teacher to help with the demand for classes. Lily was 14 now, already building an impressive portfolio and talking about art schools. Marcus was a happy toddler, obsessed with cameras like everyone else in the family. Ethan stepped back from some of his responsibilities at Morrison Industries, promoting several executives and restructuring so he could focus more on family. They took vacations together, exploring national parks and cities, always bringing cameras and capturing memories. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they returned to the botanical gardens. It had become their tradition, walking the paths where they'd first realized what they meant to each other. Lily stayed home with Marcus, giving them time alone. "You remember that day?" Ethan asked, his arm around Victoria's waist. "When I was terrified you'd realize I was falling for you and run away." "I was terrified of the same thing," Victoria admitted. "Scared that what I felt was too much, too fast. Best thing I ever did was take a chance on those feelings." "Second best thing," Victoria corrected. "The best thing you did was walk into my studio with your daughter and give me coffee-deprived pickup lines." Ethan laughed. "I was not hitting on you through coffee requests. You absolutely were. Okay, maybe a little." They stood in front of the fountain where Lily had photographed water droplets catching sunlight years ago. So much had changed since then. So much had grown and evolved and become more than any of them could have imagined. "Thank you," Ethan said softly. "For saying yes to coffee, to dinner, to teaching Lily, to marrying me, to all of it. Thank you for choosing us." "Thank you for seeing me," Victoria responded. "Really seeing me the way a photographer sees a subject, for understanding who I am and loving it rather than wanting to change it." "Always," Ethan promised. "For the rest of our lives, I'll keep seeing you, loving you, choosing you." He kissed her there in the gardens, surrounded by flowers and light, and Victoria thought about that first day. The little girl with the disposable camera and endless curiosity. The tired single father who'd been existing rather than living. The photography teacher who'd given up on finding love that lasted. They'd all been searching for something without fully realizing it. Connection, purpose, family, home. And somehow, through camera lenses and coffee conversations, and taking chances on feelings that felt too big to contain, they'd found everything they needed in each other. Victoria pulled out her camera, a reflex after all these years. "Let me take your picture," she said to Ethan. "Why?" he asked, amused. "Because you're happy, because the light is perfect, because I want to remember this exact moment forever." She raised the camera, adjusted the focus. "Because I love you, and that's what we do. We capture the moments that matter." Ethan smiled, genuine and warm and utterly content, and Victoria pressed the shutter. The photograph would be beautiful, she knew, but it wouldn't capture everything. It couldn't show the journey they'd taken to reach this moment. The grief and healing, the risks and rewards, the way they'd built something real and lasting from a simple photography lesson. Some things couldn't be photographed. They could only be felt, lived, treasured. But as they walked hand in hand back through the gardens, Victoria thought that maybe that was okay. Maybe the most important moments were the ones you carried in your heart rather than in a frame. The daily choosing of each other, the small acts of love, the way Ethan still brought her coffee every morning and she still taught Lily new techniques, even though the girl had surpassed her in many ways. These were the things that mattered. The life they'd built together. The family they'd become. The love that grew stronger with each passing day. That evening, they came home to find Lily and Marcus in the studio. Marcus was finger painting with what appeared to be every color available, and Lily was photographing the chaos with obvious delight. "This is going to be my next project," she announced. "The artistic process, a study in toddler creativity." Marcus looked up, grinned, and promptly smeared blue paint across his face. Ethan sighed, but he was smiling. "I'll get the bath ready." "I'll help," Victoria said, but first she grabbed her camera and captured the moment. Her stepson covered in paint, her husband resigning himself to scrubbing toddler, her daughter documenting it all with artistic vision. This was her life now. Messy and beautiful and perfect in all its imperfection. A far cry from the quiet studio and solitary evenings she'd known before Ethan and Lily walked through her door. Later, after Marcus was clean and in bed after Lily had retreated to her room to edit photographs, Victoria and Ethan sat on their back patio. The moon was out, stars scattered across the sky. "I have something for you," Ethan said, pulling an envelope from his pocket. "What is it? Open it." Inside was a deed. Victoria scanned the document, confused at first, then gasping as understanding dawned. "This is the building where my studio is." "I bought it," Ethan said. "The owner was looking to sell and I thought you should have it. No more rent, no more worrying about leases. It's yours." Tears filled Victoria's eyes. "Ethan, this is too much." "It's not enough," he countered. "You've given me everything that matters. Let me give you security for the thing you've built, the dream you've made real." She kissed him, tasting salt from her own tears. "I love you so much." "I love you too." They sat there in comfortable silence, and Victoria thought about the journey that had brought them here. How a simple photography lesson had turned into forever. How teaching a grieving child to see beauty through a lens had led to finding her own happiness. Life was funny that way. You could plan and strategize all you wanted, but the best things usually came when you least expected them. When you opened your door to a little girl with big dreams and her father who needed reminding that life could be good again. Victoria had taught Lily about composition and lighting, about capturing genuine emotion in a frame. But Lily and Ethan had taught her something even more valuable. That family wasn't always about blood. That love could heal the deepest wounds. That taking a chance on connection, even when you were scared, was always worth it. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked, his thumb rubbing circles on the back of her hand. "How lucky I am," Victoria said honestly. "How a random Tuesday 2 years ago changed absolutely everything." "It wasn't random," Ethan said. "It was fate. It was everything aligning exactly as it should." "You believe in fate now. I believe in us," he said simply. "And that's enough." Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling completely at peace. Tomorrow she'd have lessons to teach and photographs to edit. Marcus would wake them up too early, and Lily would monopolize the bathroom for an hour doing whatever mysterious things teenagers did. Ethan would burn breakfast and Victoria would fix it, and they'd laugh about his continued inability to cook anything successfully. It would be ordinary and domestic and absolutely perfect, because this was what happiness looked like. Not grand gestures or fairy tale moments, though those were nice too, but the everyday choosing of each other, the small kindnesses and shared laughter, the building of a life together, one photograph, one coffee, one moment at a time. "Come on," Victoria said, standing and pulling Ethan up with her. "Let's go to bed." "Is that an invitation?" he asked, waggling his eyebrows suggestively. She laughed, swatting his arm. "It's always an invitation with you." They went inside, checked on both kids one more time, then retreated to their bedroom. Victoria caught sight of them in the mirror, Ethan's arms wrapped around her from behind, both of them smiling. She grabbed her phone and snapped a selfie, capturing the moment. "Another one for the collection?" Ethan asked. "Always," Victoria said. "We're building a history here, a visual record of us falling more in love every single day." "Then we're going to need a much bigger house," Ethan joked. "At this rate, every wall will be covered in photographs." "Sounds perfect to me," and it did. Every word of it. They made love slowly that night, taking their time, relearning each other the way they did regularly after years of marriage. Afterward, tangled together in the sheets, Victoria felt the contentment that came from being exactly where you belonged. "I'm grateful," she whispered into the darkness, "for all of it. Every single moment that led us here." "Me too," Ethan murmured, already half asleep. Love you more." He made a noise of protest, but sleep claimed him before he could argue. Victoria lay awake a bit longer, listening to him breathe, feeling the solid warmth of him beside her. This was her happily ever after. Not perfect, because perfect didn't exist, but real and honest and full of more love than she'd ever dreamed possible. A photography teacher and a CEO. A grieving widower, and a woman who'd given up on finding the right person. A little girl who needed someone to see her potential and help it grow. They'd found each other at exactly the right time, in exactly the right way, and they'd built something beautiful from that initial connection. Something lasting. Victoria finally drifted off to sleep, a smile on her face, her husband's arms around her, and her heart full of gratitude for the unexpected paths that led to home. In the morning, she'd wake up and do it all over again. Teach and create, love and laugh, capture moments and make memories. She'd be a wife to Ethan, a mother to Lily and Marcus, a photographer and a teacher and a friend. She'd be all the versions of herself at once, fully and completely. And it would be absolutely, perfectly, wonderfully enough.